Okay, so what do we have here today? This is a Glenfield Model 10. It's chambered in .22 long rifle. Now you're probably wondering, why is there a rubber band on this particular gun? Well, let's take it off and let's look. So this stud here holds the action to the stock. And at some point in its life, it has broken off. I don't know if that was like a manufacturer defect or if the gun was dropped out of a tree or from a high distance, but either way, it has broken and now the stock won't stay on the receiver. Not a big deal. We're able to find one on the internet. Got this part, we could put that on, get this action back in the stock. But you know what? We can go the extra mile, go a little bit farther. Alright, so this gun has a lot of red oxidizing going on here, a lot of rust. As you can see, it goes all the way down the barrel. Action's pretty dirty. Stock is a little beat up. So what we're going to do is we're going to conserve this gun. We're going to do a conservation to it. Alright, so we're going to clean the stock. We're going to convert all this red oxidized to black oxidized, and we're going to card it. Alright, we got the rifle all stripped down. Took the front sight off, rear sight. You can see all this red oxidized rust. Some would call it patina, but it's rust. So we're going to go ahead and convert all that to black oxidized. Now, as you can see, the receiver is still on this barrel. We're not going to take that off. It's not necessary. Anytime you can avoid doing something that could potentially damage your firearm, just stay clear of it. So in this case, there's no point of taking the barrel off. We're not going to gain anything from that, so we're just going to leave that on, and we're going to convert this as is, as one whole piece. We've got all of our small parts in a little basket here. You can get it like a strainer like this at the dollar store or at Walmart or something. Just to put all your small parts in so you don't lose anything. Now this front sight is aluminum, so it's not going to convert. We're going to have to paint this. It appears that it was originally painted, so we're just going to paint that black. But let's go ahead and boil everything and get this converted. We're here at the tank. I understand not everyone's going to have a setup like this, but I do. So I'm going to use it. Now you could do this with like a gutter and a couple like crawfish or turkey burners, or just maybe just one burner. You don't need two burners. Two burners just helps the process go along a little quicker. We're going to go ahead and let that set for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we're going to see what we have, and we might have to do this process twice. Now we're back at the workbench. We're going to work on the stock. We're going to clean this up. Now I like to use 4/0 wool. Now you're going to want to degrease this stuff because it comes oiled. So I just use a little alcohol. You could use some acetone. Just let that sit. Get all that oil out of there. Now we're going to clean up all the grime that's on here. Going to get that all cleaned up. We got to keep in mind these guns were only new once. So all these little nicks and scratches, they're still going to be there. Alright? We're just converting this where it doesn't look as bad, and we're preserving what is here. Okay? We want this to be continued on. Now some would say, hey, why are you spending all this time on just a little .22 rifle? Well, believe it or not, probably the #1 caliber gun I work on is a 22. People just love them. All right, it's their go-to. It's the one that they shoot the most. This particular one, guy bought it for his grandson. He was kind of bummed out on the condition that it was in, and he was told that, you know, it was worthless and there was nothing that you could do. So he checked with me. I told him, hey, I can bring that back to life. This stuff is very easy to do. You can do it at home with some very simple things. You know, flour, wool, some alcohol. You can use a gutter to, you know, bowl a rifle. If you just got like a pot that you get from, you know, a dollar store or Walmart or something, you can do a handgun. So, I mean, the joy of this guy giving this to his grandson is worth the time and effort to put into this. And a lot of the guns I work on, believe it or not, are guns that people had when they were a kid, or it was like their grandfather's gun, or it was their father's gun, and it was their first rifle that they ever shot. And some way along the way, they got damaged or they got neglected. But these people want to see these guns back in operation to bring them joy, or to pass along to their kids or their grandkids. And that's the majority of the guns I've worked on. There's 22s. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're a lot of fun to shoot. It's probably my favorite caliber to shoot also. I mean, it's inexpensive. It's not going to cost you a whole lot. So we're not trying to sand the finish down. What we're trying to do is just clean what's here. There's some oil, there's some gunk. We just want to clean that stuff out. Now, some people would say that you shouldn't use steel wool because it can get caught in the fibers of the wood and rust in the future. From my 15 years of doing this, I've never seen a case where some fibers of steel wool was left in the stock and rusted. Now you can see there's some fibers that did get pulled out, but I'm going to come back at the end and brush those off. They're not really like deep into the wood. We just want to clean all of the gunk, all the oil that's been sitting on here. It's mainly going to be where the action is. People tend to over oil their firearms so it soaks into the wood, and it's going to be right here on the wrist where you hold it. Your hands have a lot of oil in it, and therefore it gets trapped in the wood. So you want to get that all nice and clean. Once again, we're not sanding. We are not removing any material. We're just cleaning. Alright, here's 2 paper towels. Look at all that gunk that came off of there. It's pretty incredible how much dirt builds up on these wooden stocks. Just dirt and grime. So we didn't use any sandpaper. We didn't remove any material. Now theoretically, we could restore this whole stock. I think it takes away from the character of the gun. It shows that the gun hasn't lived a life, where this one does. You know, it's got the little scrapes and little nicks here and there. So I think it's worth preserving all those little dings and scratches. Some people want a museum quality piece, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But in this case, I think it's worth having the dings and scratches. It gives character to the gun, and also just everything's here. Nothing's really truly damaged. All of our plastic pieces are all good. The only thing that broke was the stud that held the receiver to the stock. Not a big deal. We can find replacement parts for that. And we got this pretty much cleaned up. See a little bit of dirt right there. I'm going to scrub that a little bit more. Alright, stock is dry. We're going to go ahead and put a little thin coat of Danish oil on this. Now we're not trying to soak this stock in Danish oil. We're just going to put a very thin layer just to bring out the natural color. The bolt out and the parts for the bolt, and I carded it so the whole handle and the cocking mechanism was all rusted. It was all red. As you can see, after carding it, I just used a carding brush. You could use 4/0 steel wool if you don't have a carding brush. It's not the end of the world. And we just converted that red oxide to black oxide. You can see how bright that is. Now all the spots that are in the white is natural wear. Okay, these spots were not rusty, they were just worn from the gun being used, and that will not convert to black oxide. Alright, it has to be red oxide to be able to convert to black oxide. Now if this bothers you, you could just take some cold bluing and you could touch up those spots. Now if you wanted to get super extreme, you could just re-blue everything. So I wanted to show you all the difference here. You see the barrel, how we have lots of red rust, lots of pitting going on here. And this is the rear sight I just got finished carding. Let's see if I can get this in focus. Look at that. This is after carding. That is the original bluing of this gun. We did not re-blue this firearm. This is the original bluing. All we did was convert it from red oxide. Now you can see there's some pitting here. The pitting will still be there. We cannot reverse that. The gun was only new once, but that pitting has now turned into black oxide. This is bluing. Alright? This is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to preserve what is here. Now we're going to do the same to this barrel here. Alright. Now what we're doing is we're just carding this. You see? We're just carding off that red oxide so we can see the black oxide underneath. Now if you don't have a carding brush, it's not the end of the world. You can still use 4/0 wool. You just want to make sure you degrease it. We're not putting no oil on anything right now. There's no oil on this rear sight. I mean, that's just the bluing, the original bluing of this gun. Look at that. Look at that bluing. That's the original bluing of this gun. Now you can still see the red oxide inside the lettering there. But look at that. That's the original bluing of this gun. Now if you got a carding wheel, which I do, this process goes a lot faster. Now if you don't have those particular tools, it's not the end of the world. You can still get a carding brush online, or you can just get 4/0 wool at one of your local hardware stores, and you're just going to take your time. This isn't going to be a fast process. Now you can see right here, this is in the white. That was natural wear. I'm assuming that's probably from the stock caused that wear right there. And it's in the white. Now you could use some touch-up bluing once again, and you could try to touch that up. We're just going to leave it as is. It's the natural wear of the gun. We're just going to convert all this red oxide to black oxide. Alright, this is what I'm trying to show y'all. Look at that bluing. This is the original bluing of this gun. Just carded the receiver, the barrel. You can see the lettering. Let's see if I can get the focus any better. This is just one pass of carding. And there's still some little freckles in there, but we don't get those. Look at this. This is the original bluing. We have not re-blued this firearm. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, you should go to your local gun shop, talk to your gunsmith there, tell them that you want to do a conservation to your gun, where you want to convert that rust back to black oxide. If they don't know what you're talking about, leave. Go to another gunsmith. Now you see this scratch here? That's the original scratch. There's nothing we can do about that. That's going to be there. Alright? So that's going to be in the white. What we're doing is, the original bluing is rust. Alright? And a form of red oxide formed on top of it due to like moisture or condensation, and it started to convert to red oxide. So we just converted it back. Now if there was a deep pit from the rust, you're going to see a divot, and it's going to be black oxide underneath, but that divot is always going to be there. Alright. Now this side I have not carded yet. You can see all the rust that I still need to card off. But then you get over here, look at that bluing. Here's the front sight. I stuck it on a piece of wood. Now in the bowling process, most of the paint came off. There was some that was still on there. I just took a little stainless steel brush and just brushed it off. You know, you're not really sanding this or trying to remove any material, just trying to get that paint off so that the new paint has something to stick to on the front sight. I'm going to use some rattle can, just paint it black. Doesn't have to be any fancy, it's just the front sight. You don't want to go too heavy. You might get some runs. We want good coverage. And the reason I put it on a wooden dowel is because underneath I don't want paint to restrict the sight from sliding onto the barrel. There we go, there's our front sight. I'm going to stick this in the vise and let it dry. The thing has been carded. This is all the original bluing. There's not a drop of oil on this. This is all the original bluing. And that's conservation. We're trying to preserve this. After you're finished carding, you're going to get some oil, and you're just going to put a light coat on this. Just a light coat of oil. Guns don't need to be dripping in oil to preserve them. Just a light coat, that's all it needs. Just do the maintenance when you put them away. We got the Marlin back together. Look at this bluing. Get that front sight on. We have killed the cancer. There is no cancer visible rear sights looking beautiful. Here's the stock. I ended up putting 2 coats of Danish oil. The wood must be really dry. It soaked up that first coat really quick. So I just put on a second coat. Home stretch. Let's go ahead and get this back together. There's our Glenfield Marlin, Model 10. Look at this thing. Looks like it was just blued.